Class of 2024, state of Indiana. Are there many interesting prospects?
Oh, yes. It's a really good class, Darren, and it's timely as well to bring this up because as we record this again, that barbecue is going on at Notre Dame with, nearly 30 recruits, three big-time players from the state of Indiana. Mylan Graham from New Haven High School in the Fort Wayne area, unranked right now, but it's got offers from, how about this? Notre Dame, Ohio State, picked up Alabama on Monday, and Michigan. Just four offers for Mylan Graham, 6'1", 170 pounds. He picked up his offer from the Fighting Irish back at Irish Invasion in early June. Tay Johnson, ranked as the number 74 player and number 11 receiver per the On3 consensus. He's got Notre Dame, Purdue, Michigan State, Indiana, and others on campus. Also a Fort Wayne player listed as a receiver. Notre Dame likes him there, but also likes him a lot at safety. Chris O'Leary is currently recruiting him. And as we record this, Notre Dame has not offered New Palestine, Indiana offensive lineman Ian Moore. All these guys in the 24 class, by the way. But I've got an inkling that the Irish may be close to offering more. And how often, Darren, does Notre Dame let out, in-state offensive linemen? I can't imagine it's too often. So, 6'6", 295, and listed as an interior offensive lineman. Nation's 131 player, number 7 interior lineman, Ian Moore, 4-star in-state player. You got to think if the Irish offer him, they'll be in pretty good shape. Again, on campus, also visited in April. He's got Ohio State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Iowa. Pretty good offensive line schools on his list already, and do believe that Notre Dame will join it. If not today, then sometime soon.
Mike, let me test your memory. From last year's barbecue, did they hand out any offers or get any commitments? I mean, is this the type of event that could lead to something like that?
I mean, if you'd asked me before the spring game a few months ago, would there be any commitments? I was like, you know what? You can always see one, but no one coming to mind. And then Brandon Davis-Swain, defensive lineman from Michigan, pops to Notre Dame. And, he wasn't even planning on it at all, and he just commits to Notre Dame. So you never know. There's no one at the top of my mind, but when you have this many targets on campus, it's not bad chances that Notre Dame's going to walk out of this with no commitments, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's a really good group. The Irish staff deserves a lot of credit for putting this thing together.
I'm Darren Pritchett. He's Mike Singer. He is the Notre Dame football recruiting insider for Blue and Gold Illustrated, blueandgold.com. Class of 2023, the safety position. Is there a need to add another player at that spot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Notre Dame offered Ben Minnick last week from Cincinnati Lakota West High School. Now, here's kind of the deal at safety. You got a Don Schuler committed. He pledged to the Irish last August, 4-star player from New Jersey. He's locked in with the Irish. Alabama, Georgia, A&M, all those schools offered him a few months back, but he's set with the Irish. And then you got Peyton Bowen committed, and he's not completely shut down. Peyton Bowen is got A&M and Bama and Oklahoma, and, all these schools are after him. And then Notre Dame's been after Caleb Downs, a 5-star safety. But it does appear that he's leaning towards Alabama or Georgia more so than Notre Dame. So it does appear that Notre Dame wants to get to 3 safeties. And again, you got Schuler, you got Peyton Bowen, but if they lose out on Downs, who's committing to a school on Wednesday, Minnick's the guy it looks like they want for that 3rd safety spot. I'll also mention, Darren, if Bowen does go elsewhere, you don't want to get caught with your pants down. Now you got 1 safety committed. So Minnick is like a player that Notre Dame really wants, as well as being a good insurance policy, if that makes sense. So Minnick camp for Notre Dame at the end of June. I was told ran a really good 40 time, measured well, all that stuff, personality, good fit there. And he's actually visiting campus on Wednesday. So you got Caleb Downs coming off the board and Ben Minnick visiting Notre Dame that same day. I've got a prediction in for Notre Dame to land Minnick. I feel pretty good about it, but you never know. We'll see how it goes. But do think that Notre Dame will beat out Oklahoma. Offered him recently. Kentucky offered him recently. Stanford, some of the schools in the mix.
It seems like the last few weeks, Mike, Notre Dame and Ohio State are in the middle of a tennis match. They kind of take turns. in the number one spot for the class of 2023. Now, up to the minute, I couldn't tell you who has the slight advantage between the two, but both schools are having an amazing run right now. And on our YouTube channel, you can see that Ohio State has a slight lead over Notre Dame, and then Georgia and Alabama. Boy, I've never heard of those schools. So, I mean, we're getting deep into the process now. And I know for a lot of fans, Mike, I think they're heavily now invested in Notre Dame getting the number one class in 2023. At the end of the day, does it really matter? It's good publicity, I think, for Notre Dame to say, hey, we had the number one class in 23. And the fans really love the fact they could have the number one class. Is it realistic at this point?
I want to first mention, like, does the number one matter? Like, in itself, being number one does not matter. Like, you don't get some extra sparkles on your national championship trophy. You don't get a trophy. There's nothing there. But stars matter. Yeah, they matter because it matters because you're getting really good players. That's the important part. If you're signing number one class, you're more likely to get really good players because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to identify these elite recruits, and especially when they have 50 offer lists of 50 schools and they're 6'7", 280. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, but right now Ohio State, per the On3 consensus team football recruiting rankings, Ohio State has a score of 93.121. Notre Dame's at 93.111. So that is a difference of what is that 0.01 between the two. So it's the margin there is razor thin. You got Georgia at 92.969. So they're very close as well at number 3. So look, if Notre Dame landed like Dante Moore is a 5-star quarterback, and you get Jason Moore, Jason Moore, defensive lineman who ended up committing to Ohio State, borderline 5-star talent, then you're getting closer to the top 2-3 discussion. I still think 4 to 6 is a optimistic viewpoint on it. It's just I don't know how to. I think if you think Notre Dame is going to finish top 3, like that's very, very optimistic. It's just kind of tough to project like who's going to go where these chips fall. But I think there's a decent shot Notre Dame signs its first top 5 class since 2013, and the 2022 class finished number 6. My gut tells me right now they finish number 6. But I could very much see 4 or 5. But just my roll of the dice would say 6. And again, it's a total guess. Don't tweet me. Don't leave me nasty. Oh, Mike, I'm just throwing a guess out there. I don't know how this is going to finish up.
I was going to say, I could give everybody your phone number if they just want to, give you a call to give their opinion on this whole thing. I'd be happy to save you the trouble.
Oh, man.
But seriously, Mike, everything you said is exactly right. I think if you peel away a couple of layers in this conversation, the fact that Notre Dame is going toe-to-toe with Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, and
they're not going toe-to-toe with Michigan.
That's the importance.
Yeah, you don't need to bring in Michigan. I mean, they're not going toe-to-toe with Michigan. They're not battling Michigan for the same kids.
They show up on the list a lot, I guess, is what I was
thinking. Yeah, they show up on the list, but I mean, Michigan's not really. I mean, they're in the mix, but I guess you could say they're battling Michigan, but they're recruiting at a little bit different level right now. Michigan ranks number 24 right now, with a score of 88 compared to Notre Dame's 93, which is only 5 points, but 5 points are pretty big deal when it's 22 slots separating the two schools. So, but yes, saying that kind of teasing the Wolverines, but yeah, when you're recruiting against Ohio State, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, like, yeah, it's a good conversation to be in.
Do they get bonus points in the rankings if they get Ausberry off the LSU campus?
Ooh, Darren. So Jaiden, I'm glad you mentioned him because he wasn't on our list of things to talk about. Jaiden Ausberry is a 4-star linebacker from Baton Rouge. His school's literally like I think he takes classes on LSU's campus. Like it's right there. His dad played at LSU, works at LSU. He's announcing his commitment. I believe it's August 4th, and Notre Dame's considered the team to beat. Oh man, if that happens, I am really looking forward to writing some articles about that one, because people need to put in perspective just how crazy of a recruiting win that is.
Somebody in the family is going to get blamed if Notre Dame goes and gets a kid off LSU's campus. I mean, that's absolutely nuts.